Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Geek Gab with Tommy. And in this week, I would like to do something a little different. I want to make a video about posing. Working in an anime store for 5 years, I picked up a lot of tips and tricks for posing figures. And I'm going to show you in this video how to make your figures look actually industry quality. And so the beginning of everything is actually when I start with any figure, it's about opening up the box. And actually I have something new right here. This one I haven't opened yet. So this is Kamen Rider Cross Charge from Kamen Rider Build. So whenever I get a new figure, I always open it up and I check out the instruction manuals. Even though I've been in the industry for so long, most figures run about the same thing. It's always a good idea to look at the instruction manual. You don't know every single weapon, if every single weapon has a different way how to hold it, or you have to disassemble a certain part. It's just best to take a look at it. Well, most Kamen Rider ones are actually just very similar. They show you what parts they have, and they show you what can be taken off and removable. So in this case, there's a warning about the little bottle, the jam pack, basically from the Kamen Rider Build series, and you can be able to remove it, and it's easy, and it says you can easily misplace it. And it's also saying that, you know, here Cross Dragon is also compatible with this series, so it's a good idea to, you know, check it out and figure it out. So the next step of it, when you actually open it, is that these blister packages, they've been in certain temperatures for a while. What people don't really understand is that they're actually in a lot of like cool places, so when you guys take them out to different places, heat and cold really affects them. So when I open it, I'm actually really careful, and I'm gonna go ahead and just pop this one off. Okay, so we're gonna shift views a little bit, and I'm going to show you guys basically from my hand point of view how I work. Okay guys, after that we carefully take out our figure from the blister package. So a lot of time there's a lot of these paint guards, these strips right here. So the first thing you need to do is just easily remove them. And the way I do it is I just simply pull and I tug them out softly. So I'm careful not to pull them too hard. It might do some joint damage. There was actually one of my Gaiden figure. I wasn't careful, and I pulled this part right here, and it was never the same. So his core was like, it just keeps falling apart. So whenever I get a new figure, I always limber them up, just like a real person. I'm just gonna stretch out some of the joints and stuff here to just make sure like the figure is actually in good quality, and it makes it easier to pose later on. Because, you know, most of the time these figures have been in blister packages for so long, the paint kind of like gets into the joint sometimes. It just happens, and you just want to make sure to move and limber some parts, and you want to be careful not to break anything when you do this. You don't want to be like, you know. And a good tip that most people don't know is that they actually move stuff from here. This creates a lot of pressure from all the other points, but if you actually move them from the joint, it's actually a little bit better when you're posing them, so you have a lot more control. So the next thing into learning about how to pose figures is that know your star. So here I have a Kamen Rider. He is a hero. He is a hero type. He is, first of all, a human. So I know that he is a human. There are some physical limitations for people, and you need to understand that. And the less you need to understand about what anatomy is like, a man stands differently from a woman, how a dog stands, how an animal stands, how a monster stands. They all have different weights and body in their gravity. I'll talk about a little bit about physics a little bit later, but basically anatomy is that you understand where the structure is standing. So first of all, what type of pose do I want to do? So for cross charge, I'm going to actually do a Shoryuken pose. And that talks about Shoryuken. So in my mind, I know what a Shoryuken looks like. But the best thing to do is actually to gather reference. You want to go online and look at pictures and understand how your figure is going to pose. So I actually have a tab open here, and I just looked up a simple Shoryuken pose here. And I'm using the one from Ken. So in Ken's, actually, his Shoryuken is used with his left arm going up. So we're going to do the same thing. But usually when the arm is going up this way, we want the opposite leg to be going up, not this arm. So we're going to actually move this leg up. And most people fail to forget is that when you do a Shoryuken pose, you need to push your feet down. Like these heels need to go down. That's where it goes apart. Ankles up, moves down like that. And this other arm, it's going to, you want this arm to be more like pulling upward. And the fist. So a lot of times when I'm trying to understand a pose, is that I'm actually going to act it out. So from Superman's ballerina pose to Batman's posing, I always kind of make the movements myself to understand the muscle structure. So here I have cross charge. His head should be going upward, right? Because he's looking at his fist, he should be looking up this way to pull upward. And this fist should be going towards his chest, and the legs going up like this. So here's a really cool tip too. A lot of people don't. What people don't really know about figures is that they're made from PVC and ABS and a lot of different type of materials, but they're actually all heat sensitive. So I notice a lot of time people who, like, when I see them trying to fit hands or any weapons on, they just kind of forcefully do it, and they're like, oh man, I just can't get this thing to get out. It doesn't pop off correctly. And I can show you a really cool tip and a trick, and it's actually this. It's a hair dryer. Have it on low heat, and we're just going to heat up the hands just a little bit to pop them off and make it softer. So I'm going to turn it on really quickly over here. Okay, I put it on high just to make it really quick. So now the figure is a little warm, the plastic's loosened up a little bit, and I can just easily pop it off. And now there we go. And then I'm going to choose the hand. Hand movement is very interesting. So for most time, closed fist is very for close combat. But when I'm lifting up, I want to make sure like it's going to look interesting, right? So I know that he has like this type of physical knuckle duster here. And he wouldn't be holding a fist, because how would he be able to hold this, right? And these twin prongs are going to be where the contact point is. So I'm going to need to switch for a hand to hold it. So this hand is actually very cold and hard right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick warm up. Now the hand is super soft and flexible. I don't know if you guys can see this, but you guys can see that, but the hand moves up a little bit. But be very careful. Now that it's heated, it's easily more breakable. You know, you just want to be very careful as you pop it in here. Okay, and I've popped on his hand right there. So there we go. I'm just gonna go ahead and put away his hand, and I actually have a few accessories for him that actually might make it look really cool. I actually have a fire accessory, blue flame accessory from SH Figure Arts, Tamashii Nation Effects. I really like these. These are I bought a lot of these over the years, along with my stand, to create the illusion of fire. So this is actually very nice. The more you understand more about the human body, the better it's going to look. So I always recommend getting these stands. They get expensive at times because you have to buy so many of them. But however, they're such a good investment because they're going to be able to hold your figure into place right here. So the next part of the challenge is that the stands are actually, you have to pose the stands as well. So here I have like this, right? Doing the Shoryuken. I can actually pose the stand to help me push him up a little bit more. I'm extending this from here to push him forward a little bit. And there we go. We have this really cool pose. And what we have to understand next is that these poses, this is not a made-up pose, this is a very cliche pose that you can get off online. But what I understand the most about this is about the shape. So Crossy's shape is that he's actually a very small figure. So I need to understand how he's going to work. If you actually look at this, this is actually a triangular shape. It's a very sharp and very pointy shape. He's a sharp character too. So your eyes are drawn to a lot of parts on his body. So I have here that this is a triangular pose, and what it's kind of this is kind of a variation of the ballerina pose, where it's the one leg up tuck, and it's just a very superhero looking type of style. The next one I'm going to use is Cloud. He's actually a bigger one, so it'll be easier to show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and move cross charge over here, and I'm gonna bring it into Cloud. So, FF7 Cloud. So first of all, we're gonna go ahead and run down the steps again. So the first step again is the instruction manual, but if you guys all know, most people know that the actual instruction manual for play arts are, I forgot, they're actually in the box. And they're actually onto the side of the box, so you have to remove the whole entire box. So we're not going to do that. It's going to be a lot of waste of time, especially just to show that you can just interchange the hands, and that this part is actually removable here for Cloud's back piece for his buster sword. So the first thing we need to understand is that Cloud is a human, so we're going to go ahead and limber him up a little bit. Like I said, move it from the joints right here, not from the whole entire hand. It's going to really mess up your stuff up. So as here, I'm just going to stretch out his leg here because he's not very limbered up here. And the pose that I'm going to do for Cloud is that I'm going to try for a, I think the best way to do would be Braver would be pretty cool to do. His Braver pose from his first limit break would be really cool. So I'm going to go up and pull the second, I'm going to pull up a reference for it. So. And from here I understand it's kind of like the Shoryuken pose, where it is, again, it is an, this time his other leg is going to be upward. So we're going to pull his leg up like this from the joint. We're going to pull down his leg here. His back leg is going to be back up again here. And we know that the Braver is that Cloud's back is actually going to be extending out here. So we know that most humans, as we're jumping up and leaping, the gravity is going to be coming from your front leg, so you don't want it to be too far off. So this leg's going to be not perfectly straight. I'm going to have it angled off like this a little bit, and both arms actually from Braver is extended back to the back side of his head. So this is what we look like first. We're going to understand that the arm is out here. His arm wants to pretend more neutral, so you're going to have it out a little bit more. I tend to know that I notice that when I'm doing a lot of things with the hands, I use this hand to kind of like figure out Cloud's eye level about what he's going to strike. So I'm going to put this hand out here, so he's looking at his hand, he knows it's going to be striking that way. So a lot of times that I've noticed that people break a lot of these handles because these are really cold, they're hard, and the hands are stiffed up from the cold. So what I usually like to do, again, I always recommend, is the hair dryer. So we're gonna grab the hair dryer really quickly and it's just, you know, blow dry it really quickly. Okay, now Cloud's hands are a lot more softer and warm, and so I'm just going to easily just tuck this in. How easy was that? So, there we go. Like looks like he's about to summon some materia, and just access the sword from the back right there. So another tip that a lot of people make mistake is that they pose on the stand. Don't pose on the stand. That allows for a lot of breakage. You're going to break your figure almost 100% of the time when you put them on the stand and you pose them like that. The stands are not always stable, so when you're moving them around too much, you're going to actually have a chance to damage it. So here we're going to have this clamp around his waist. It's going to hold up here. Gonna move his little extra hand there. So now we have Cloud. So this pose is really interesting because it creates a lot more space. It makes Cloud look bigger than he is, and it fills up a lot of space. So I noticed here that his hand is actually angling off a little bit. It's because of the blade. It's a little too heavy for the hand joint, so it just like automatically draws back here. So I can actually just extend it like that and keep it straight forward, and it's going to keep falling back in. There you go. Let's give Cloud another pose. So let's go ahead and grab Cloud out like this. It's a good idea whenever you're changing pose, go ahead and just remove the weapon, unless the weapon is like, because this weapons could be very fragile. So let me put Cloud in a different pose here. So first of all, let's do a ground stance one, because some people don't actually have stands, and they do a lot of ground stance attacks. So here, Cloud's 10, I'm going to go ahead and remove it out here. I'm going to go ahead and grab another hand. That's essentially this one. So, like I noticed right now, it's really difficult to put it in again. So I'm going to go ahead and use my hair dryer again. Give it a nice little warm. Now the plastic's a little softer. Let's give him his battle stance, so we know that he always. So if I'm happy with the pose, I know this is that the leg back, his dominant leg is going to be the one pushing back. So his dominant leg is going to be pushing back. I know his foreleg is going to give him that pressure, and his head's going to tilt. A lot of time people make a mistake is that they forget to pose the head. They just leave his head down like this, or they just move it around. But you want to make sure his head is at the same eye level what he's going through. His body is pushing his dominant arm here. His back leg is pushing forward. And I'm going to move his body up a little bit here. Give him that little nice battle stance. So his back's curving a little weird, so I'm just going to make that adjustment. Always look at your figures from different angles, because then you'll see like one angle looks correct, and then the next thing you know, like the other angle is wrong. So always, you know, perspective. Look it around, give it a change, see if it doesn't work or not. Cool. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put the Buster Sword into 2 hands. Now the next step is to put him onto the stand. So he's not very stable, as you guys notice. He's like leaning back and forth. I'm going to put him down really quickly, and I'm going to make the adjustment for the stand. And there we go. Now we have a really cool battle stand pose, and this is what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to review the steps one more time over. Okay, so the first thing is that always look through your instruction manuals. It's a good idea to know that what is removable and what is not removable. The second thing is to limber up your figures. Move them around, move the joints around, and remember, move from the hinges and not from the longer part of the extension. The star. Know your characters. Is it a human? Is it a monster? Is it a robot? Know their limitations in their physical form. The anatomy part is to understand the movement of body. Always kind of act it out on your own and see how it feels. If you feel like you're overstretching, you feel like you're over pushing it, it's not going to look right. And then references. Always look at poses. I always think about, like, when I want to pose anything, I look up anything from like figure drawings or, you know, superhero poses. They always work, and iconic ones. And then shape and form. Know what you're kind of building. If it's like you want to make like a square, blocky, bouldery type of kind of character, sharp, triangular, circle, round. So kind of know that. And then the physics and gravities. I know that the fact that this leg is being the push-up leg, this leg is pushing, so you need to bend the joints a little bit to know that where the weights are coming in. And the accessories are actually extensions of the body, so know that where they're going to be holding it, if it's going to be weird if they're holding it. And then finally, tricks. Angles. If you want to take pictures, you don't need to incorporate everything. So if you want a certain look, and most of the time what they're doing on the boxes that they're actually showing you trick pictures, where they're holding it, where they actually disassemble some of the body parts, so then the figure can actually stand and pose a certain way. I noticed with my Genji figure, when I was posing it, I noticed that one of his sword stances looked amazing on the box, but when I did to replicate the box art, it didn't actually look really good, because the fact that the legs were all off, and it's because they cropped them right from the body. So also taking really cool things about taking picture tips is that you can also, like lighting, cropping, it's just like you gotta do a lot of this stuff and start knowing it. You can take a really quick like tutorial to look up on how lighting can change your figure. And what I do for backgrounds is that sometimes I find a really cool like big JPEG on my computer, and then I put the figure in the background and I take a really quick shot with my phone and I crop and I edit everything else, and it looks really spectacular from all my toys. Okay guys, and that's basically some of the tips and tricks I have to show you guys how to pose your figures. And lastly, there's actually a final tip and trick. It's basically the understanding of the shelf level. So if it's lower shelf, mid shelf, high shelf, you want to be able to pose these figures correctly. So this is more like a high shelf type of figure because he's already jumping upwards, so you want him to give that illusion he's higher. And Cloud is more of a mid-eye level type, so if he's too bottom, it will look weird because all you'll see is his sword and his top of his head. Too high, all you'll see is the bottom of the sword and it's kind of up his crotch. So it's kind of a mid-eye level. So it's basically on you to figure out where to move your characters on your shelf or your glass case. And knowing spatial awareness and how much things are next to each other is also very important. I hope this video was very helpful to you guys about learning how to pose figures. And if you guys have any specific figures that you guys have a pose and you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below, and please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my videos. Thanks very much guys, and see you guys next week.